As always, I am glad you are here. Today we are talking about solve equations by multiplying and dividing, and we're going to try to fit the quiz part 1 and part 2 in here. So here we go. The first question says, organizers for a local race plan to provide 3 water bottles for each runner. 328 people have signed up to run the race. Which of the following equations represents this situation, and what does the variable x represent? Okay. So we know that there's this many total people running the race. And I'm going to go ahead and make myself a note that that's the total. So when I set up my equation, that should be what it equals. All right. And then it says organizers for the race plan to provide 3 water bottles for each runner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take x divided by 3. And what I'm doing here, I'm just going to let x represent how many water bottles do I need. Because in this case, I know I have a total amount of runners and I know I need 3 water bottles per runner, but I don't know how many total water bottles that is. So my variable x is going to represent how many water bottles I need to buy. And the reason I did the total number of water bottles divided by 3 equals the people is because each person is supposed to get 3. So that's why I set up my equation this way. Now it doesn't say you have to solve the equation, but if you did have to solve it, the opposite of dividing is to multiply. So you would multiply each side by 3, that would cancel, and this would tell you how many water bottles you would need. So in this case, 328 times 3, we would need to buy 984 water bottles. It doesn't say to solve it though. The question just asked you to write the equation and tell what x represented. So just the parts in purple. All right, what is the value of b if -5 plus b equals -8? Well, I see an equation, so you know me. I'm going to draw a line down the equal sign, and I'm going to box off my letter. And then I'm going to ask myself, what is on the same side as the letter that I need to get rid of? And over here, I have a -5, so I need to do the opposite of that. And the opposite of subtracting is adding. So I'm going to add 5 to each side of my equation. 5 minus 5 cancels, bring the b straight down. And -8 and a +5, if I think about my basketball court, or you can just do it in your calculator, but I have 8 on the negative team and 5 on the positive team, so the negative team is going to win because they have 3 extra players. So b equals -3. Now remember, since this is a quiz, you're going to want to check your work. So you're going to take the original equation and you're going to substitute that back in. So where I see the letter b, I'm going to put in parentheses, a -3. And anytime you substitute something in, you usually want to use parentheses. All right, and then I'm going to do this in my calculator. -5 plus -3, or your brain, that does equal -8, which is what it's supposed to equal. So yes, this is my solution. Okay, here we go. What is the solution to 3q equals -75? I'm going to go ahead and draw my line down the equal, and I'm going to box off my letter. And in this case, there is nothing outside of the box on the same side that I need to get rid of. So then I have to look inside the box, and there is a 3 right next to the q. And if it's right next to q, it means you're multiplying. So right now I have 3 times q. The opposite of multiplying would be dividing. So I'm going to divide each side by 3. 3 divided by 3 is cancels, or it's just 1. So I'm going to bring my q down. And then either in your brain or your calculator, you're going to do -75 divided by 3. And I got q equals -25. Now again, because this is a quiz, I'm going to check myself by substituting it into the original problem. And wherever I see the letter, I'm going to use parentheses and plug in what I think it should equal. And I'm trying to see if that equals -75. So I'm going to do 3 times -25 in my calculator, and it does equal -75. So that's how I know that I got it correct. If you substitute your answer back in and it does not equal it, that's a red flag that you know you have it wrong and to go back and resolve it. So this is my answer. All right, so we're solving this equation. We're going to draw our line down the equal sign. We're going to box off our letter. The number that's on the same side that we need to get rid of is -3. But we're not going to add 3 to both sides because it doesn't say r minus 3. It says r divided by -3. And the opposite of dividing is to multiply. So we are going to multiply each side by 3. Negative 3, I'm so sorry. Whew, that was a mistake. So the negative 3's would cancel, leaving us with just r. And then 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. Now we're just going to double check by substituting it back in. Where I see the letter r, I'm going to plug in a negative 30. And I always use parentheses when I substitute back in. And I'm going to see if this equals 10. Oops, that was a negative 3. So I'm going to plug this side into my calculator, negative 30 divided by negative 3, and it does equal a positive 10, so I know that is correct. Here we go, we're solving another equation. So we're going to draw our line down our equal sign, box off our letter. There's nothing outside of the box that I need to get rid of, so now I look inside the box. It says negative 6 times z. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide each side by negative 6. These 6's will cancel, leaving us with just z. And then in our calculator, we can do 42 divided by negative 6, which is negative 7. But like I said on every other question, since this is a quiz, we need to check our answer. So we're going to substitute it back into the original equation. Wherever we see z, we're going to plug in a negative 7, and we always do that in parentheses. And we're just going to see if that equals 42. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this or made this clear enough, but just to be clear, you're always typing in this side into your calculator, and you're making sure that it equals whatever it's supposed to equal. So if I just type in negative 6 times negative 7 in my calculator, I do get a positive 42, which is what it was supposed to equal, so that answer is correct. All right, we're solving another equation, so we're going to draw our line down the equal sign and box off our letter. Oops, what just happened there? That is not a box. Let's try that again. Why is this not getting, there's my pen. Okay, so if I look on the same side as the letter, as the box, there is a negative 7 that I need to get rid of. So the opposite of subtracting 7 is to add 7 to both sides. Negative 7 and positive 7 give you 0, so that cancels. We're going to bring our h straight down, and 9 plus 7 is 16. Now let's double check ourselves by substituting it back into the original equation. Negative 7 plus, and I'm going to put h in parentheses, and I'm checking to see if that equals 9. So I'm going to type negative 7 plus 16 in my calculator, and that does equal 9, so I know that I have done it correct. Another equation, so draw your line down the equal sign and box off your letter. In this case, we need to get rid of the negative 5. The opposite of subtracting 5 is adding 5, so we're going to do that to both sides. Remember, we got to keep that equation balanced. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0, that cancels. We're going to bring our g straight down, and negative 24 plus 5 is negative 19. So I think that's my answer, but I'm going to go back and substitute it in just to make sure. I'm checking to see if this side equals negative 24. So negative 19 minus 5 does equal negative 24. So this is my answer. All right, what is the solution here? We're going to draw our line down our equal sign. We're going to box off our letter. And in this case, we got to get rid of this. And it looks kind of weird because there's a plus and then a negative 4. Don't get confused by that. You just want to use the sign that's directly in front of it. Since it's a negative 4, we want to do the opposite, which would be a positive 4. So we're going to add 4 to each side. Whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other. It's kind of a weird L. And then 9 plus 4 is 13. Now I know I sound like a broken record, but here we go. We got to plug it in and check it. So I'm plugging in a 13 where I see L. And I want to type it in exactly how it looks to see if it equals 9. So the parentheses are going to be involved. And I'll go ahead and show you how to type it in the calculator. So I went over here and I pulled up our Desmos Calculator. This is the calculator that you'll be able to use on all your tests and quizzes and even your state tests. So it's a good one to get used to. But when you first pull it up, you don't see like the calculator part. It is hiding down here in the corner. So you have to hit that keypad to get all of this stuff to pop up. And then we're going to type it in exactly how it looked on our paper. So parentheses, 13, close parentheses, plus parentheses, -4 parentheses. And that does equal 9, which is what it was supposed to equal. So when you go to first pull up Desmos, just remember that you will have to hit this keypad icon to get the calculator part to pull up. And then it should all be right there. So we just verified in our calculator that that is our answer. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so for the next part, we're starting part 2 of the quiz. And it says, note, enter your answer and show all the steps that you used to solve this problem in the space provided. We want to write and solve an equation that represents the following situation. 30 people paid a total of $450 for admission to a local soccer game. What is the price of admission? All right, so first we need to write an equation. We know that this is our total, a total of 450. So when we write equations, I like to go ahead and put my total out there, 450 after the equal sign. And then we know that 30 people bought tickets, but we don't know the price of the ticket, so we're going to let that be a letter. I'm going to go ahead and call that X. So 30 people bought tickets, so we're going to do 30 times X equals 450, equals the total. So this is going to be my equation. So that's one thing that you have to type in the chat box, but then or in the space provided. But then it also says you have to write the equation and solve it, write and solve. So now we need to solve it. Okay, so I need to get rid of the 30. Right now it's 30 times X. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide each side by 30. And in this example, I got that X equals $15. So right here, if you want to type out what you did, this is the division property of equality, or you could just say divide by 30. And then we simplified it, like in our calculator or in your brain. And then we got X equals $15. So the price of admission, each ticket cost $15. Let's look at this next one. It says to enter your answer and show all the steps that you use to solve this problem in the space provided. We want to simplify this. Now remember, this is order of operations, or PEMDAS. So the first thing we have to check for is parentheses. We do have parentheses here, so we need to take care of that first. So I'm just looking right here inside the parentheses. And once you look inside the parentheses, you still have to follow the order of operations. So we have division and multiplication. Those are actually in the same step in the order of operations. So we just want to do them in the order that they come in. So we're going to go ahead and do 12 divided by 4, which is 3. I'm just bringing this times 2 straight down. And then I'm going to go ahead and do 3 times 2, which is 6. So I just took care of my parentheses. And I'm just going to plop everything else down so I kind of see what I've got going on. So I have 6 squared plus 9 times whatever we got in that parentheses minus 7. Now this might confuse you a little bit because notice I left the parentheses there because that shows me that I'm doing 9 times 6 and I don't just get 96. But we've done everything inside of the parentheses, so we are done with that first step. Next step says exponents, and we do have an exponent. We have 6 squared, and remember the exponent tells you how many times you're multiplying it. Since my exponent is 2, I know that I'm multiplying 6 twice. And 6 times 6 is 36. And I'm just going to plop everything else straight down. All right, the next thing in my order of operations is to multiply and divide. And I do have multiplication right here in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have 9 times 6, which is 54. So I'm going to get 54 here and then just bring the rest straight down. And then my last set of steps is to add and subtract. And you don't have to add before you subtract. You just do it in whatever order it comes in. So since this part is first, I'm going to add that first. 36 plus 54 is 90. I'm just bringing this straight down, and then I'm going to go